evening, everyone. It's so exciting to have all of you here. We're here to celebrate. We're here to have fun. And what a song to kick off our night. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Lauren Clark, President and CEO of Bridge C14. We're a national nonprofit organization that supports individuals through all stages of medical assistance in dying. I'm joined this evening with all of you from the territories within which you reside, and I encourage you, as you have been in the chat, to include where you live. I'm joining from Ottawa, which is on the unceded Anishinaabe territory, and I want to acknowledge and thank the Lekwungen people, also known as the Songhees and Esquimalt and First Nations communities, past, present, and future, for their stewardship, care, and leadership on these lands. We acknowledge that we are guests on these lands and give thanks to the ancestors, the leaders, the matriarchs, the creatures, big and small, for looking after the rich resources and cultural teachings of this beautiful land. Bridge C14 acknowledges the devastating impacts colonization and including, but not limited to, the displacement of peoples, the loss of language, culture, and children on the disproportionate number of Indigenous people that we serve. We're committed to decolonizing our work and our practices and are on a learning journey that we hope will bring us closer to understanding and incorporating Indigenous history and culture into the work that we do each day. So I'm so excited to be here to support the launch of this incredible children's book, which is written by our one and only Chelsea Peddle. This evening, we're here to give thanks to all of you and the countless others who have given so much to seeing this book come to life. We also hope to validate the value in this book and its teachings and its guidance for those who navigate this journey through MAiD with children, and as well as why it's so important to engage kids in this MAiD journey. We want to ask all of you to help us to share loudly, to continue to announce the launch of this book, and to proudly share Pancakes with Nana. So a little housekeeping note before we jump in. We do ask that you keep your cameras on. It's so nice to see all of your faces. And please do remain muted throughout the discussion. We'll accept questions in the chat, and I think there's a Q&A function, and if there's not, just include your questions into the chat or your comments there. And there will be a door prize as well at the end of the event. So the person chosen at random will receive a fantastic prize, but you must stay all the way to the end to receive it. You don't want to miss it. So on to the good part. I'm honored and privileged to introduce you to Chelsea Peddle. Chelsea's a writer, a registered clinical counselor, and has been an end-of-life doula in Victoria, British Columbia since 2017. Her passion for the subject is rooted in both personal and professional experience. She's also a former health policy analyst and health literacy writer with a deep knowledge of our healthcare policies and our healthcare system and available resources. Like many of her clients, she's also been a family caregiver to loved ones with terminal cancer and accompanied her mom through MAiD in 2019. Chelsea's new private practice focuses on counseling support for individuals and families pursuing MAiD and experiencing MAiD grief and bereavement. She's also a consultant and facilitator with Learning Through Loss, an organization that provides psychosocial education and support for grieving youth and their people through school-based relationships, youth programs, and individual counseling. She's also, and which I'm so honored to be, to have known her in this role, has been with our organization at Bridge C14 since 2019 when she joined our advisory committee. She also completed her counseling practicum with us last year, where she co-developed and facilitated a meaning-centered group therapy program for people pursuing MAiD. I'm also proud to call her a friend. So Chelsea, this night is all about you and Pancakes with Nana, of course. So congrats to you on this amazing accomplishment.
Thank you so much, Lauren. It's It's so wonderful to be here with all of you, and I count many of you here as friends and certainly colleagues and some family. So it's extra special that you're all here with me today. I'll have to tell you, you're probably noticing my throat is a bit gravelly. I have COVID. Yay, third time's the winner. Apologies if I get a little raspy as I'm talking tonight, but I really didn't want to miss spending this time with you. So I'm gonna muddle through with my voice. I just am so profoundly thankful for all of your support and encouragement through the last, it's been over 4 years now that we've been working on making Pancakes with Nana a reality. So this is a really special moment to be celebrating with you. I have so many people that I want to thank. I've made some notes because I don't want to miss anybody, but I really want to start with the Kickstarter support. We ran this campaign and raised over $10,000, and I think most of that within, well, we exceeded our initial goal within 24 hours. So this was just completely overwhelming at the level of support that this campaign received. I had an incredible team of volunteers that were fanning out on social media and contacting folks in their community. And I really want to thank them for all of their help, especially my sister, Dr. Brianna Petal. There, you can see her. Her little wave, thank you. And my friend Layla Casper, who wasn't able to join us tonight, but they really helped to coordinate things. It just really showed me what a community project this is. I had a number of former death doula clients that were also in that team. And it just showed me how we build community through everything that we do here. And this really feels like a group success. So thank you to everybody that helped with that Kickstarter campaign. Little update. A lot of folks, one of their rewards was to buy additional books. And so I've been hearing from people where they've been sending them. So there's hospices now across Canada that have received these donated books. There are schools now that Pancakes with Nana is in. And I even have one friend in Australia who ordered 25 books, and she's contacted a number of different hospices, as well as Dying with Dignity New South Wales, and donated books to them. And so they are now fanning that out to the families that access support through Dying with Dignity New South Wales. So it's got some global reach. I think one of the furthest countries we've got Pancakes with Nana in is in Belgium. And other parts of Western Europe, all over the US, certainly all over Canada. So it's only going to grow from here. I really want to thank Bridge C14 and Lauren. They were a huge part, I think, of making this Kickstarter campaign a success, and even donated $1,000 to the campaign. That donation is going to allow me to do some direct support for people that are accessing support through Bridge C14, where I can do some guidance around supporting children through their person's MAiD for people that are with Bridge C14, and also donating some books to them as well. And then certainly, Lauren, your encouragement from the start has been something that has really buoyed me through this. It's an incredibly hard task to bring a children's book to light, and your enthusiasm just gave me energy through the whole way. So thank you so much, Lauren. I'm so grateful. There were a number of people who read early versions of Pancakes with Nana that really helped to make it what it was. One of them is here, Linda Hunter. She's often my sounding board for so much of the content that I create, and has such wisdom and skill with the pen. So thank you, Linda. I also want to thank Kate Irving, and also Cheryl McFarland, who's a children's book author, also reviewed it for me. I had a couple of really wonderful professionals. Andrea Warnick wrote the foreword for Pancakes with Nana, and she's a renowned grief counselor here in Canada. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight. And then I also want to thank Dr. Tanya Dawes. She's a MAiD assessor and provider who reviewed the book for me from a clinical perspective to make sure that all the information I was sharing about MAiD was correct. So again, really a wonderful team effort to help make this book a reality. I want to thank Christina Morrison. She's the illustrator, and we're going to talk a little bit more about her later, but I just wanted to say thank you here to her. And I'll tell you the story about how we connected later on tonight. And finally, I want to thank Wise Inc. They are my publishers, and I found them in the US, and they have just guided me with such kindness and such belief in this book. All of the books that they publish have a social justice angle to them. So when I had trouble finding a publisher here in Canada, they jumped on board immediately and saw the value of this book. So I want to give a really heartfelt thanks to my team at Wise Inc. And then finally, this book it's about my mom. It's about my kids. It would not exist if it weren't for them. And I really, here, emotion is starting already. It's quite amazing to me to think about all the things in my life, the good things in my life that would not be if my mom hadn't died. And in particular, she hadn't died using MAiD. It's such a, I know many of you understand this complicated feeling. But you've heard me say before, turning lemons into limoncello or lemonade. That's what this experience, this cathartic experience of creating this book has done for me. And I hope for other people in the community. And I'm just so grateful that my mom showed us how to do this well and that my kids were game. And I'm grateful for them allowing us to share our story. And thank you for receiving it. So thank you, everybody. In addition to these thanks, I also want to share a discount code. So if you know anyone who's interested in getting Pancakes with Nana, now is a good time. Please share this code widely. I have no restrictions on how many times you can use it. It's 15% off, and I'm going to pop it into the chat. It's PWN15, Pancakes with Nana 15. And I'll put it in the chat for you right now so that you've got it. So please go, and this is how you get books. It's off of my website for now. Amazon will follow sometime in the new year, but for now it's through my website. My final thank you. There's two special people here who've also been cheerleaders for this book, Kei-Lyn Durant and Kathy Kortes-Miller. And I'm so excited to have them here tonight to talk a little bit more about engaging children in MAiD. Lauren, I'll let you introduce our friends.
Yes, and also good friends of mine as well. It's always so nice when we get to share in these experiences together. And so firstly, we have Dr. Kathy Kortes-Miller, and Kathy is someone who I've known for several years and who has been in this space for a long time as well. She's an unconventional death educator with a passion for palliative care and improving end-of-life care. She's been teaching and researching at Lakehead University for over a decade, and in her work, she inspires and challenges future healthcare providers to be prepared to care for individuals who are dying and their families in healthcare settings. She's also a cancer survivor, and as a palliative care provider, challenges us to have the important conversations about death, dying, and life. She strives to make an impact with her teaching, research, and speaking to discover, share, and communicate the information we're all dying to know. Her research is interdisciplinary and collaborative, and it covers a broad range of fields: palliative care, end of life, MAiD, LGBTQ2S+, and gerontology. And in March of 2018, she published the book, which I also encourage all of you to get a copy of, Talking About Death Won't Kill You. And she's also part of the podcast Disrupting Death, which Kathy and Kei-Lyn both had Chelsea and I on not too long ago, and some others who are here with us this evening, and fantastic podcast. So I'll put a plug in for that as well. And introduced Kei-Lyn here. She's a research assistant and obviously part of this podcast. She's also a full-time doctoral student, contract lecturer, and researcher at Lakehead University. She is a passionate educator, particularly keen to support the littles in elementary school as they face ongoing grief-related and socio-emotional challenges brought on especially through the pandemic. She works also with puppet Phoebe the Sloth, using play to meet and explore grief with tiny griefsters on their level. Her background is in applied theater, which sparked a desire to learn more about digital storytelling and podcasting. and she loves to spend time with her dog, Frank. Love. So welcome, Kathy and Kei-Lyn.
Thank you so very much. It is great to be here. And congratulations, Chelsea, on publishing the book and getting the message out there. And it sounds like it was very much a community effort and support to make the process happen. But I remember months ago talking about it with you and hearing the excitement in your voice. And one of the things that I was listening to you talk about the experience resonated with me. And it's unfortunate Andrea Warnick isn't here, but I think she really captured it in the foreword from your book when she writes that Pancakes with Nana does a wonderful job of depicting the benefit of preparing children for a death through honest and inclusive conversations, clear language, and loving support from the adults in their lives. And I think that is an essential tool and an essential task that those of us as the biggies, to use the opposite of the littles, as Kei-Lyn likes to call younger people, as biggies, we need to develop the skills to be able to do that. And your book, Pancakes with Nana, will really help us to be able to do that. And it's great to hear that it's being shared far and wide. I know I donated my second copy to our hospice here in Thunder Bay, and it was well received as well. So I want to start off, Chelsea, by asking you, why this book? What inspired you to take your experiences and put them on paper in a way that allows you to live out loud and to share with others?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it just came directly from my struggle, really, is where it started. So my kids were, they just turned 4 and 7 at the time. And this was back in 2019. And we engaged them in their Nana's illness all through. We knew that it was terminal quite early on. And so they knew that Nana had cancer and that she was going to die from it. But when she decided that she would die using MAiD, I had no idea what to tell them, what would be appropriate for a 4-year-old and for a 7-year-old. And at that time, the amazing resources that we have through Canadian Virtual Hospice, for example, it didn't really exist. A lot of the materials were written for grown-ups in quite grown-up language that I found hard to process, and that didn't give me the language or the approach that I really wanted to use with my kids. I wanted something that I could show them, that I could read along with them. And so about 3 months after my mom's death, this story just literally composed itself. And I kind of sat down in one day and wrote the whole story. And then over the course of the next year and a half, started filling in the pieces. And for me, this was the cathartic part. I really wanted it to have an information and educational component, but more than that, I wanted it to show the possibility for connection and for healing that could happen when we actually share these hard moments with children. And so for me, Pancakes with Nana, it's not just about sharing language that parents or caregivers might possibly be able to use. It's about showing an approach to connection, an approach to engagement. It's about celebrating what people loved in their relationship and finding ways to live that right up until the moment of death, and then afterwards, way to honor that relationship.
Thank you, Chelsea. I wanted to also extend my hearty congratulations. And it seems such a thrill to be here with you tonight, having been in the podcast and listening to your story and sharing it in that format. And here we are, of course, now launching a book that goes out into the ether and it goes, into the Southern Hemisphere, as you've said. I want to touch on something that that Kathy actually touched on with the Andrea Warnick. I am also a student of Andrea's, and I one of the big takeaways from her, of course, was when we are with littles, it's really important to be using honest and frank and open language, because I can remember Andrea saying, you know, we never want a child to be speculating about what's happening when we could be helping them explore what is happening. So in that sense, here you are, an author, and so much of what we write is about following a question. And you shared with us just now that, you know, you were struggling about the information that you thought was appropriate to share. What can a 4 and a 7-year-old handle in terms of dying, death, and loss? And now we're talking about a form of dying that is new to so many of us. Why do you think that children are often left out of these conversations around dying, death, and loss? Well, you know, and when we fail to listen to our littles, what do we lose, and what do we not perhaps set them up for?
Yeah, great and complex question. And I feel like I've lived that myself. I think our desire as parents and caregivers to protect our children, I think it really comes from a really loving and caring place. Why we often exclude children, it's because we want to protect them from hard things. So, and I certainly experienced that myself when I was trying to decide what is appropriate for my 4-year-old, what is appropriate for my 7-year-old. And I acknowledge that I made a mistake with my 4-year-old in how I handled it with her. At the time, I chose to tell my 7-year-old that her Nana was having MAiD, when it would happen. And I gave her a lot of choice about whether she wanted to be there, how she wanted to say goodbye. A lot of the things that we see in Pancakes with Nana are pulled directly from what happened with my 7-year-old. With my 4-year-old, for some reason, I just had a block. I really felt like I couldn't communicate with her in a way that she would be able to understand what MAiD was. I think it was because she was so little, I just felt really emotional about actually saying the words to her that her Nana was going to die. We had told her that she was sick and that she would likely die, but I couldn't quite get there. So on the day of my mom's MAiD, we sent her off to daycare to be with her friends, knowing that when she returned, we'd be telling her that her Nana had died. After when I started composing this book, it's funny, the 4-year-old was the one that was most interested in it. I would read her passages. She wanted to be a part of it more than the 7-year-old did. And it wasn't until I finished the final draft that I sat down and I read her the book. She sat on my lap. And at the end of me reading it to her, she turned to me and looked up at me and she said, "Did Nana have MAiD?" And it wasn't until that point that I realized I hadn't told her. I'd completely gapped on it. And she was hurt. She felt excluded. All of the things that the children's counselor that I had consulted with before that told me this would likely happen if I chose to withhold this information and they found out at a later date, she was right. And I had in my head, oh my God, she was absolutely right. And so I had repair work to do with my 4-year-old. She felt like everyone else knew something that she didn't. There was some reason, there was something wrong with her, right? Because little ones, it's always about them. There's something that she had done that forced me to exclude her. So I wish, looking back on it now, that I had shared that information with her at the time, or at least not sprung it on her in the way that I did. But I think one of the things that we risk is trust with our children if we don't offer them age-appropriate information and they find out some other way.
Agreed. I think that trust piece is essential, Chelsea. And no doubt you've done some great repair work with your 4-year-old. And it's hard work. Like, I just want to acknowledge that talking to the littles, particularly when we find ourselves in a situation where we are sad, where we feel vulnerable, where we're not 100% sure what's going to happen next, that's extra hard. And I think it's books like Pancakes with Nana that are going to help us to be better at that. And because those conversations are challenging, worthwhile, but really challenging at the best of times, let alone when I think it's still somewhat fair to say that in Canada in general, because I think I'm seeing some representation from different areas of our country, we're still trying to figure out how to use the language of medical assistance in dying as adults, let alone actively include the littles in our conversations. And I'm going to do a shout out to my friend Cynthia, because I know she has talked about that on our podcast. And I had an experience today. I went and had my hair cut. I'm usually a crazy curly person, but I've got a lovely hairstylist who straightened my hair. And as we were talking, I said what I was going to do this evening and host this book launch. And my hairstylist looked at me, she goes, Kathy, isn't it enough that you always talk about dying and death? Now you're expecting us as parents to have conversations about MAiD? She calls it the MAiD with our children. And her children, Chelsea, are probably around the same age as yours, it sounds like. And so I'm wondering, how do you respond to parents who want to have those conversations with their littles, who want to know how do you have those challenging and complex conversations?
Oh, I mean, first thing I do is like cheer them on that is the instinct that they have, that they want to have these conversations with their children. And I think, yeah, we're definitely kind of afloat in figuring out how to do that. One of the reasons why I chose to write this as a children's book instead of an article or something like that is that the level of the language is something that even for adults in our fog of grief, our fog as caregivers, we need information that's at that level. So while this is a book for children, I actually think even if parents buy it and read it just for themselves, that is a huge win, and hopefully information that's at the level that they can absorb. So for parents who want to have these conversations, I mean, there's a lot of tips in the back of the book about how to start these, like how we want to set up these conversations. And really the theme of it is allowing your child to lead you, to let you know what they want to know. So offering simple information and then sitting back. So oftentimes for me as a parent, I kind of feel like I got to get it all done in one conversation. Like I feel more antsy about getting the information out there. And something that I like to remind parents is that this is a conversation that could take place over days, over weeks, and it might take place verbally. You might do it through coloring, through other activities, through play, depending on the kid's age. But just finding a way that your child communicates best, and then maybe having some of the tips around the really child-friendly language that you can use to describe some of these concepts around MAiD.
I think that's so valuable, Chelsea. I am not a parent. However, in my almost 30-year teaching career, I have certainly been involved in the wraparound care of all of our beautiful children. And I think it's especially advantageous for myself as an educator to have a book that you took the time and were very, very clear about getting the details correctly. And then, of course, delivered them in a way that our littles, and as you say, people who are in those spaces, in manageable chunks. And I think what you just said is very apt, because at grief camp and the spaces that I inhabit, it could literally be, oh, so I heard about this MAiD and I have a question. And you answer the question and they say, oh, okay. And they ask another question. And then the third question is about whether they can go and play outside. So I think it's really interesting that you've identified that something that Hannah Laura Voss said, one of the early death educators. She said, when we want to impart this kind of knowledge to children, we have to get on their level. And so it's kind of saying to ourselves, I get it. I know how I'd like to talk this out. And now I'm, either literally or figuratively gonna maybe get on my knees and have this out with my little person. I think that's so helpful. So that being said, I know that your hopes for this book, you've shared a little bit of where it's now, spread across the globe. And we know that the rest of the world is watching Canada in terms of its MAiD. What are you hoping that other people who spend time with grieving children, or children who have curiosity about dying, death, and loss, people like myself, educators, and people on the periphery, even hockey coaches will contact me and say, I have a little guy on my bench and he's missing his dad. How can I help him? What are you hoping that the greater village is going to be able to take away from Pancakes with Nana?
I have such hopes for it. And I feel like doing this work as a death doula, doing this work as a counselor in this field, certainly with Bridge C14, I feel like we're surfing this culture change right now. And so I realize like this is a bit of an uphill climb. One of my hopes that I'm really going to be focusing on over the next year is I'd really love to do workshops in elementary schools around death, dying, and grief, where we integrate MAiD, we integrate Pancakes with Nana as just one of the ways that death can happen. So that's one of my goals, is to normalize MAiD as just a way that death can happen. And I know that getting into schools is a tough sell, but I'm really hoping to connect with ally teachers, ally counselors. And I'm hearing more and more from these frontline workers that they have need, that these families are really isolated. The stigma is still an issue. And so if we can start doing a bit of that culture shift around just integrating MAiD into our normal conversations around death, dying, and grief and the cycle of life, that would be a huge win. I would really love for hospices and counselors to have this as part of their toolbox, as their resources. So forging connections with hospices is also going to be on my to-do list. And then I'm also really, this is where I rely so much on this community. So many of you here are either in the death caring field, or you've experienced, you've walked with someone through MAiD. And so those connections, listening to you about where you think I should go with this book would be really valuable. So I'm very open to any connections that you might have, or folks that you think that I should be talking to as well.
Thanks, Chelsea. And I think the appeal of this book, as you've described, it opens up doors for conversations to happen. You have concrete suggestions at the end of the book, how to get some of those conversations started. But I know one of the things, in addition to the beautiful and powerful narrative that you've written so well, that really grabbed me, I'm a big Pancakes fan, and my pancakes never turn out like this. These are gorgeous. But my favorite picture has to be, I'm not good with the Zoom thing, but this little picture of this young girl with the pancake. This is my pancake. Sorry, the other way. When it goes splat offside the frying pan, the splat one. That's my kind of pancake speed. So you obviously attracted an illustrator or managed to develop a relationship with a very talented artist. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened there? How did you find an illustrator?
Absolutely. And I agree, Kathy, like my pancakes and the pancakes that my kids would make with their Nana did not look like those very fancy, well-shaped ones. There was definitely more splatting happening. So we're in a bit of a fantasy land here with our beautiful illustrations, but don't they make you want to eat pancakes, like just the stack? Yeah, Christina Morrison. So this is, yeah, a bit of a story. I worked with my publisher, did a call out through the usual means, trying to find illustrators. We got about 10 that were initially interested, that were available. And then as soon as they found out what the topic was, not a single one of them returned their portfolio or agreed to move forward with the process. So I mean, that just told me, that was a real motivator for continuing with this, because I thought, geez, that is some power of stigma right there, that illustrators aren't even willing to touch this project. I found it quite upsetting. But this is where community came in. So I just did a post on my different Facebook pages, my Death Doula page, and people just fanned out. It was posted on different message forums, and some death doula in the United States posted this on a US forum, and Christina saw it on this death doula forum, and she contacted me, and she sent me her website. And the moment I logged onto her website, I saw her beautiful, she had on there acrylic paintings of Anne of Green Gables and Emily of New Moon. And these were two of my mom's favorite books. So I immediately was like, okay, little sign, little signal here. And they were just gorgeous. So she did agree to come on board, and she was very supportive and encouraging, and so thrilled to be a part of it. And one of the first illustrations that she did was this inside jacket, this cover one. And at this point, she didn't really know much about our traditions, our pancake traditions with my mom. But the fact that she put raspberries on here, this is another sign. Raspberries are something that are really important to my mom and to my kids. We have raspberry canes going back generations in her backyard, and we used to go and pick them and put them in our pancakes. So it just all felt like meant to be, that Christina came into my life and came on board for this project. And I'm so happy that she did. Yeah, I see, Cynthia. Yeah, it is incredible, the power of community. It just was such a wonderful example to me about how we've got such brilliant supporters here. Yeah.
I think it's always great to celebrate the support and to acknowledge that people want this book to go far and wide, and recognize the power it can have, particularly around the conversations it has with littles. And I hate to be a downer, but medical assistance in dying is not always well received in all pockets of Canada, or further even. And I can imagine why Australia is really interested, just getting started with their own assisted dying within that continent. So Chelsea, I gotta ask, because I'm always interested in the other side of the story too. Have you experienced, outside of trying to find an illustrator to support your work, have you had any negative experiences with others when you told them you've written a fabulous book on the experience of your mom using MAiD with your children?
Yeah, on the whole, 99%, it's the reaction I've gotten is just pure excitement and gratitude, almost even like a sense of desperation and relief. So that has made me really feel like, yes, we're on the right path here. There's a tremendous need that is not served right now. I have had a little bit of blowback. One of them was interesting. It was from a daycare provider, actually my daughter's former daycare provider. And when I let her know about the campaign, she sent me quite a lengthy email talking about how this was propaganda and I was brainwashing children, and this foisting a political opinion onto them. And this is from an early childhood educator, someone who understands how children's brains works and the needs of their hearts. But she really felt that I was trying to politicize something and indoctrinate children by making them aware of MAiD. And for me, the way that I responded was that I didn't respond. For me, I don't really see much sense in engaging with folks like that. As a person who's a doula and a counselor who's quite visible in this community, I marshal my energy quite a bit in terms of who I'm willing to engage with. And in this instance, it was clear it was not going to make an impact. And for me, I'm not concerned with the folks who don't want it, don't need it, don't think they can use it. I'm really concerned with the folks that are struggling silently, like I was, and who are desperately going to their library, searching online, asking their professionals that are in their life for help. Those are the people that I want to invest my energy in reaching.
I think that's a really, first of all, a really gracious way to handle situations like that. But what I also want to kind of circle back to is this idea that this particular example that you shared, here's a person who is an ECE, and as you say, interested in the hearts and minds of littles, and then completely decides to look through this issue, I'll call it, through an adult lens. Oh, this isn't something that I think is appropriate. So therefore, where those of us who inhabit these spaces and listen to children and field their questions and act as guides, really know that it's not about what we put out there, it's what they seek in us and ask of us. So very interesting, isn't it? How we can be very contradictory.
Well, and it really is, putting our head in the sand, I think, because the reality is that the kids are already aware of what's going on. They sense that even just the subtle or not so subtle energy shifts, the emotion, and they often overhear things. And so by denying them that opportunity for information, for engagement, it really is causing harm. This is something that our littles are already experiencing, and we can pretend that they're not, but it doesn't change the fact that they absolutely are. And like you said earlier, Kei-Lyn, often the reality that they make up in their head to explain what they're sensing, what they're feeling, is far worse than the gentle information that we can share with them.
Absolutely. And I think following on from your point too, Chelsea, is that to think of a little going off to bed thinking that their Nana had done a bad thing is unconscionable. I mean, we're not thinking about the child at all. So absolutely. We had a question in the chat, Chelsea, about whether the book will be translated into any other languages.
Oh, I'd love to. Yes. And again, here's connections. If you know anyone who can help with that, I would be really keen to start with French. And there's also a part of me that's really interested in some Scandinavian languages, just because that's, the part of the world where there's a lot more experience with assisted dying. And so I would really love to create something there. One of the pieces of research that I did when I first started on this book was to see, are there any other children's books that already exist? And in my limited research skills, I looked in Scandinavian countries to see, because I figured, well, it's been, many, many, many years that this has been part of their culture, part of their policy. Couldn't find anything there. And then there's only one other children's book about MAiD that was published just about, in the last year, that's come out in Canada by Bill Ferguson. To my knowledge, these are the only two that are available. Oh, Linda, yes, thank you.
So Chelsea, will you please do us the honor of reading a piece of the book? We would love to hear that.
Okay. I was trying to decide which part to read. I'm just going to go with my favorite part, and hopefully you'll like it too. Story time. Next week, we have pancakes with Nana, but it's not the same. After breakfast, Nana and I visit in our special spot while Mom washes up. Nana, I don't want you to die. I don't want to either, Nana sighs, but I'm not scared. Really? Not at all. I can't control whether I live, but I do have control over other things. Like what? I ask, and Nana smiles. I get to decide where and when it happens, and I'm going to make it beautiful. Music will be playing. Your mom will read my favorite poem, and I'd like to have a visit with you that morning, if that feels okay. Okay, I whisper. The next few weeks are hard, but sometimes they're nice too. Mom calls it a roller coaster. Sometimes I feel happy and up high, like when I'm making a collage of our favorite family pictures with Nana, or when I bring Nana sunny daffodils and she smiles as big as she did before she got cancer. Then the roller coaster zooms down and it feels like my stomach is jumping out of my tummy. Tears leak out of my eyes, even when I don't want them to, like when I'm at school. Night times are so sad. I hug my stuffies and cry. Sometimes Mom cries with me. One morning, Mom asks if there's a special way I want to say goodbye to Nana. Maybe a drawing or a poem? My head swirls. How do I say goodbye? Suddenly, my last visit with Nana is here, right before it happens. Nana looks tired, but her eyes twinkle as she pats the bed next to her. Come on, lovey, climb on up. Her voice is a whisper. Remember the bucking bronco game we used to play on this bed? You were such a little one. I could lift you on my pillow over and over again. I nod my head. The crystals hanging in Nana's open window sway in the breeze. Nana and I watch the prism rainbows dance on the walls. Which is your favorite? Nana asks. I know right away. The crescent moon. An excellent choice. Bring it here. I slip off Nana's bed and take the prism down from the window. Nana cups it gently in her hands. She closes her eyes and takes a slow, raspy breath. Then she lifts the prism to her mouth and whispers something soft and sweet. Sam, I've whispered my love into this prism. When you feel sad, when your feelings are like dark clouds, I want you to raise this to the sky and look for rainbows. There's always light after a storm. I give Nana a long hug and put the prism in my pocket. Then I give her my goodbye present. Nana, I want you to have Old Bear for today. He'll take care of you, just like he took care of me when I was little. I love you, I whisper. You'll always be my Nana. Nana takes Old Bear and tucks him under her chin. She squeezes me tight, and then it's time for me to go.
Thank you, Chelsea. I think that might be my favorite part too. I love how you managed to weave the idea of infusing meaning into sort of everyday actions, right? We often think that there has to be something with tons of bells and whistles when someone is dying. But your book really shows that it's the everyday act of a Nana sharing a prism with a memory attached to it and the sharing of an old stuffy, because kids want to participate in that too. The littles want to be able to be helpful. So your book just shows us that and gives some really good concrete examples what that might look like.
Thank you. I love that scene because, like, for me, that's of course the heart of the book. That's what it's about, is the love and the connection. That's the opportunity that we talk about, that we give, that gift we give to children and to the person who's dying, if we can be present and intentional and prepare our kids and our adults for this. And this, it's kind of a scene that I wish that it had played out exactly like that in some ways with my kids. And I'm also happy that they got to choose how they wanted to be involved. So the night before my mom's death, I asked them if there was anything they wanted to give Nana or another final way they wanted to say goodbye. And they chose Old Bear. Literally, that is one of their stuffies. And they asked me to take that to her hospice room. And she actually did. When she received this bear from me, I said, I'm giving it to you on behalf of my children. She tucked it up under her chin, and it stayed there all through her sleep that night. And it stayed there as she died as well. We have a beautiful, beautiful picture of her. The last photo we have of her is of this bear tucked up under her chin. And she has such a serene smile on her face. But I love this scene because it has the emotion. It has, yeah, that feeling as a parent. And then also when I think of it as an educator, a grief educator, a MAiD educator, I see all of these things that I want people to know about. I want them to know about transitional objects, these ways to build continuing bonds. So that teddy bear, right? It was a source of comfort for Sam. It's now a source of comfort for Nana. And then it's going to come back to Sam as well, knowing that it's imbued with that connection, that experience, that comfort. The prism is now something that Sam will be able to tell more stories about. They engaged in that storytelling about the bucking bronco game as well. And that's something that I really encourage people to do as part of the grieving process, is the role of remembrance, the role of remembering. And often we need an object to help us with that. So that scene for me, it checks so many boxes, and that's what makes it my favorite.
I think it's so important, Chelsea, to really reinforce the term you used. You said the gift. And as Kathy said, these gifts are not necessarily elaborate and all the bells and whistles, and it's the gift that's laden with memory, as you say, and remembrances, but also that the gifts that, when you think about the layers of gift in your whole process here, so the gift that Nana gave to the children gave back to Nana. We have now you creating this book as a legacy piece. And something that continues those bonds, as Kathy and I say repeatedly on the podcast. Death might end a life, but it doesn't end a relationship. And so their love of Nana continues, and there's that ability now too for your gift to go out, as I said, into the hands of others, so that people appreciate what we can do when someone is dying, so that dying is a beautiful experience, and then the grief is also possibly a beautiful experience, because dying, of course, is natural, and grief, of course, is healthy. So I thank you for that gift that will continue to keep on giving.
Thank you. I see the pride in my youngest daughter's eyes and face when I tell her about I had someone buy Pancakes with Nana a couple weeks ago, and they shared a little bit of their story with me, how they had a young child as well that they're supporting. And so I let my youngest know about it, and she just was so happy. It's like there's another kid like her who she's helping with her story. Like, she feels so much a part of this, like you said, this legacy. It's a legacy for my mom, and it's also something that my kids are going to carry forward with pride, knowing that sharing their story is helping others. That's the best part, really, is seeing her so happy and walking in to give a copy to her teacher that she'd been talking about, and sharing this with over the last year. It's just an incredible moment.
Well, congratulations again, Chelsea. Want to open up the floor if anyone else has questions or comments for Chelsea. I really like what Linda just stuck in the chat, that it's possible to find the extraordinary in the ordinary, even in death. Yes, and I think Pancakes with Nana gives us lots of ideas and shares a story that shows us how to do that. So remind me again, Chelsea, we've got the code in the chat for the 15% off.
Yes, it's in there. The link to my website is there. Like I said, please share it far and wide, post it on your social media. Let any of the professionals that you're in contact with who support children through this and families, please let them know about it. This is really, Pancakes with Nana has been a grassroots campaign. It's going to continue to be that. It's as the publishers in children's literature in Canada say, this is very niche. They believe that there wasn't an audience for this. We know that they're wrong about that there's people that need it. And we make connections with them through our communities. So please share it far and wide. And I see Lauren, did you do the draw? Did you find our winner?
I did. And I see Alicia's hand up. So we'll go to Alicia first, and then I will announce the big winner.
Okay.
And Leah had her hand up as well.
Oh.
So take it away, Alicia.
Yeah, so I just wanted to offer congratulations, Chelsea. I know you've been working on this for a long time and been so dedicated to making it happen from like just an idea, right, to today, which is amazing to witness. And I just wanted to mention too, because I know I've read the story kind of, it's maybe changed a few iterations, but back when I read it too, I was kind of amazed at how, even as an adult, how much value I got out of it. And I think how much value I would have gotten had I had it before my mom chose MAiD. And so I think it can also really help adults in that moment too, just to think about what you want your last day with your loved one to look like, certain gestures like the bear, and then also rituals, right? Like the whole idea of pancakes and how you can kind of continue that memory and that legacy of that person. So I just want to mention that. So I think it's not just for children. I think adults could really benefit from it as well.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Alicia. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I hope that they will.
I was going to say, Chelsea, congratulations. It's a really beautiful book. I was so excited when you first sent out the email that you were doing the jump start. I think that's what it was called. And then finally getting it was like, oh, so exciting. I wanted to say I was providing some peer-to-peer support with a woman whose dad is having MAiD. And then she mentioned she had little kids, and just right away I said, wow, I know about this book. And she wrote it down. I hope she bought it because she was really looking for some something. And so I'm hoping she did pick up a copy, because it was so special to be able to share that. So thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful, Leah. And thank you so much for your support through all of this. There's like some folks like you that I kind of mostly see through Facebook land, and sometimes through like Death Doula Network International, those kinds of things. But just to get those little messages and those little likes, it means so much when we're doing this work. Like for me to know that that I'm in community with you, and like it honestly, it gives me the energy that I need. And you've been one of those people that have just kind of always been there. And so thank you so much for engaging with me that way.
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate it.
So we have come to the exciting moment of getting to announce our prize winner, our door prize winner, which includes the Pancakes with Nana book and a blanket as well, which is beautiful. It's too bad I couldn't randomize my name to come up. But our lucky winner is Sadie, who it's a nice way to kind of wrap up our time with Sadie as well, and working through Bridge C14 and MAiD related work. So, thank you for your support and sticking around tonight, and to all of you, and to Chelsea, right? It's amazing to see what you have accomplished. And I remember you sort of questioning, and I was adamant in my social work way, saying, no way, no shape, no how, you are doing this. And I'm so glad you did. So again, check out the discount code, buy copies, buy one for everybody over the holiday season. As you get into the new year, think about birthday gifts, other times of the year, and those in your community, organizations, other places that can really use this and be able to deliver this message and continue this conversation. And, I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much. My heart is full. Thank you, everybody. And I look forward to staying in touch. Yeah. And thank you, Kathy and Kei-Lyn, always a pleasure to be in conversation with you. I'm so grateful to have spent this time with you. Thank you.
Likewise, and great to see everybody. And it's good to know we're all out there supporting this fabulous book.
Absolutely. And you feel better soon, Chelsea.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to go to bed.
Absolutely.
You did it. Well done.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Take good care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.